What's up, guys? This is Nate again with Mud Digger Off-Road, and for those of you that are into the power sports side of the market, we just recently came out with this vented radiator shroud that actually attaches to the factory radiator cover, so it saves you guys a little bit of money and really kind of amplifies the look from the rear end of your 2019 to newer YXZ. So when you order the product, you're just going to be getting the 14 gauge aluminum plate that's already pre-cut, pre-drilled, and you're going to get a little hardware pack that's either going to be coming with the button head screws and lock nuts, or you're going to be getting the rivet kit. This case right here is the rivet kit install, so it is a little bit more tedious, a little bit more time consuming as far as the install goes, but it is the more difficult one of the two. So if you do have the bolts in this case, everything is going to be the same with the exception of when it comes time to secure this shroud to the factory cover. All you've got to do is stick those bolts in there and then slowly tighten them down to create that bend. So starting right out of the gate here, first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and mark the outermost points of every cutout on that plate. Once those are marked, you're going to take your marking tool, pencil, Sharpie, whatever you choose to use, and you're going to go around and connect all of those lines just so you have a nice defined line to cut on. Always typically want to go at least an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch wider, just because once that shroud is put on there, you don't want any of that plastic to be visible from the other side. And once you get done making those marks there, go ahead and grab your cutting tool of choice. Mine for this situation is just an angle grinder with a cutoff disc on there. Typically, we'll have a lot of customers that'll use like a Dremel with a cutoff wheel, or we even had somebody that let us know that they used a like an old soldering iron to kind of melt out the circles. It doesn't really matter what you cut it with, just kind of want to get it as cleaned up and as professional looking as possible. But a lot of that can be done on the post process with a razor blade. You'll clean up all those rough edges, clean up all those burrs, everything as far as your rough cuts go. So go around and cut out all of those squares that you just marked, which once again are the widest points on the vented shroud. And once you get those guys cut out, you do have a couple directional flaps or directional guides on the inboard side of the rear cover. So you're just going to want to go ahead and connect those to the surface cuts, so that way you have a nice seamless airflow across the radiator. And once you got the front side finished being cut there, you're going to flip it over, and this is where you're going to make the cuts on the air dams on the back side. So typically want to start a little bit wider and work your way up toward the top cut. That way, once you're looking through or looking into the vented shroud, you're not seeing any kind of miscut plastic or anything like that. Just give it a little bit of extra room to breathe, and once you get that guy out, you can go ahead and grab the razor blade and start kind of cleaning up and getting any pieces that didn't fall out super easily. Once you get all of your cutouts marked up and cleaned up, go ahead and grab the vented cover, and those 4 little dimples on the top side of the radiator cover, that's going to be your alignment points. So you've got 4 pre-cut sections that you're going to want to go ahead and line up with those dimples, and that's going to allow you to get the vented cover straight, centered, and positioned correctly. Same thing on the bottom. You just want to double check that all of your cutouts are in fact cut far enough, so that way you're not seeing the plastic or miscut plastic through the vented parts of the shroud. And this is 14 gauge aluminum, so it does bend extremely easily. So typically just find a hard corner, or even better if you have a rolled corner, to essentially just match that bend of the factory shroud. And don't worry if the factory radiator cover is starting to feel a little bit flimsy. That is perfectly normal for how much plastic you pulled out of it. But once this 14 gauge aluminum is secured to that cover, it is even stronger than it was before you cut anything out. So just ignore the fact that it is a little bit flimsy right now. Once you get the vented cover on there, everything's going to line up beautifully, and it's going to be a very, very strong and sturdy unit. So after you get that bend started, go ahead and mock it up, make sure it's centered, make sure it's positioned correctly, and you can start out with marking some holes. So once again, this is the 1/4 inch rivet. So this customer decided to go with the black rivets. So they're just a standard pop rivet in a 1/4 inch diameter. So you're going to be using a 1/4 inch drill bit to drill out all of the rivet holes. If you did order the kit with the bolts and nuts, those are going to be 1/4 by 20 bolts and nuts there as well. So you're still going to be drilling a 1/4 inch hole as well. If you do want to oversize by maybe a 32nd to give you a little bit more adjustment, if you are using the bolts and nuts, feel free to do so. The holes are oversized and they will cover up just fine once those button head screws are in place. And the order of this process here is going to be almost identical between the rivet option and the bolt option. You want to start on the bottom side where your radiator cover latches are and slowly work your way up, adjusting it and keeping it centered the whole way up. And last couple rivets here. And once you've got that guy secured on, as you can see, it's extremely sturdy and it is ready to rock and roll onto the machine, guys. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. One of our guys will be happy to assist and answer any questions you may have. So thank you and have a good one.